In the quiet village of Obana, where morning fog rolled across the dusty paths like whispers from the dead, there lived a woman whose story haunted every corner of the land. Her name was Patricia. No one remembered much about Patricia's childhood, except that she came from the kind of poverty that made the bones scream. Her father was a palm wine tapper, drunk more than sober. Her mother, a worn-out woman with cracked palms and silent tears, sold boiled maize in the market, but barely enough to feed even one child. Patricia often wore the same torn wrapper for weeks, her stomach rumbling like a cursed drum, echoing her family's misfortune. They laughed at her. Oh yes, the children mocked her tattered slippers and dry hair. The mothers whispered, she won't make it past her teenage years. Even the market women would hiss when she came near, tossing her leftover crumbs like they were doing her a favor. But Patricia never forgot. She carried their mockery like embers in her chest, burning and feeding a dangerous desire. She made a vow, one so heavy, even the spirits trembled. I will never be poor again. I will become so rich, they'll kneel to taste from my pot. And those who laughed, will beg to lick my plate. And so began her journey down a path darker than anyone could have imagined. When Patricia turned 22, she vanished from the village. No one knew where she went. Some said she followed a rich man to the city. Others whispered she had died, starved in the bush. But 3 years later, she returned. Not as the broken, hungry girl they once knew, but as something else. She now lived at the far end of the village. A stretch of land so isolated, so desolate, that even birds feared to perch. An abandoned area where the wind wailed like it mourned the living. And there, she opened a rice shop. Not just any shop, this one looked like it was carved from dreams. A red-painted wooden hut with golden carvings on the doors. From morning to night, thick smoke floated from her fire, carrying a smell so divine, it made your soul ache. She sold only rice. But this rice, it was different. Boiled to perfection. Soft. Aromatic. Some swore they saw steam rising even when it had cooled. The stew that accompanied it was redder than rubies, thick and spicy, with pieces of meat that melted on the tongue. Word spread. Children on errands diverted their paths. Students used their last coin. Mothers who barely had enough to feed their homes would sneak out just to buy a plate. Even the chief's guards were seen licking their fingers in front of her shop. Morning. Afternoon. Evening. 3 times a day, villagers made the long, lonely walk to Patricia's hut. Past the old shrine. Past the twisted tree where no one dared play. Past the broken bridge where a child once drowned. No matter how far or strange the journey, they came. And they paid. Her food wasn't cheap, oh no. One plate could buy a week's supply from other sellers. But the people didn't care. Something pulled them. And slowly, every other food seller's shop emptied. Boiled yam sellers wept. The okra soup women packed their basins. Fufu joints shut down. Even the town's best jollof seller sat in front of her shop, watching flies hover over untouched food. But Patricia's line. It stretched long, too long. And something wasn't right. People began to forget how they got there. A boy sent to buy pepper found himself licking her plate. A man returning from work discovered he had spent his last cash on just a spoonful. Some swore they had eaten 3 plates, yet still felt hungry. Addicted. Hollow. But no one could stop. And all the while, Patricia smiled. But behind that smile was a secret. A terrible, ancient truth. You see, the riches she now enjoyed weren't born from sweat or luck, but from something far darker. When Patricia left the village, she wandered for days, hungry, hopeless, dying. On the 7th night, beneath a moonless sky, she collapsed in front of a thick forest known as Iziayani. A forest feared for its disappearances, where voices whispered without mouths and trees bled at night. As Patricia lay there, between life and death, a voice called to her. A woman's voice. Soft. Sweet. Cold. It offered her everything: wealth, beauty, respect. But in exchange, she must cook. Not just any food, but rice. And in every pot, a little part of her soul must stir. She was to return to her village and become a queen, not by crown, but by craving. The conditions. She must never stop cooking. She must never give free food. And she must never tell a soul how she became who she is. Or the price would be her blood. Patricia accepted. And from that moment, her life changed. She was taught the ways of the spirits. Recipes that required more than ingredients. Her pot became her altar. Her fire, sacred. Her stew, infused with hunger, desire, and submission. And every time someone ate, they gave her something. Not just money. But energy. Life. Power. Now, the village was under her spell. But not everyone was blind. A small group began to suspect. A grieving mother whose child vanished after eating from Patricia's shop. A wise old herbalist who once warned the chief about a fire not from this world. A curious boy who noticed the shadows behind her hut didn't match the sun. And they began to watch. To wait. To dig. But Patricia knew. She always knew. And she was ready. Because anyone who dared to uncover her truth would face a hunger far worse than death.